Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to order our April council meeting. And before we begin the invocation night, everybody here, we want to keep in our thoughts and prayers the McCraw family and the Daniels family, the families that were affected by that tragedy last Thursday morning, as well as the Gaulding family. We had a bad storm last night, and there was a lady in Victoria who lost her life in her home at 1 o'clock this morning. At this time, I'd ask Councilman Nathaniel Miller to lead us with the invocation.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly merciful Father, as we gather here tonight, I want to say, God, thank you for letting us be here. Thank you for letting us see another day above ground. And God, as we go about this problem of town council, let us solve the problems that are before us. And let petty jealousies or trivial personnel be step in the way. These and all blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. We now invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming out. As usual, I'm going to shuffle the agenda tonight. We are delighted to have with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, a representative of the Virginia Municipal League, Jessica Ackerman, and for the last several years, the Virginia Municipal League has sponsored a contest that I've been really a big fan of because it's an essay contest. And they have a contest every year for 7th graders to write what they'd do if they were mayor. It's called If I Were Mayor. And so for 2 of the last 4 years, we have had winners of classes I've gone to visit. And we are delighted to have with us tonight, we have a young 7th grader from Dinwiddie. And I want to tell you something else you've heard me say in these chambers. A lot of times y'all will come to me or people will come to me and say, well, Billy, I don't live in Blackstone, but... And my response has always been, I don't care where you live. If you have an idea that's going to make Blackstone better, or an idea that maybe is not that great, it doesn't matter. The love of Blackstone, the concern for Blackstone, no boundaries. So we had a 7th grader from Dinwiddie, Sadie Henshaw. Sadie, please stand to be recognized. Our future mayor, right there. Give her a round of applause. And we have her parents is Heath and Kristen. And little sister? Yes. What's little sister's name?
This is Lottie.
Lottie? But I want to tell y'all something. I'm not going to read the essay. She is a regional winner, one of 8 winners in the state. I have read a lot of essays. I've been to a lot of schools. The day I went and visited the 7th grade, Cam Williams, also teachers in the background. Let's give Cam a round of applause. Yes, we are. But Sadie's essay and the questions that Sadie asked, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm a government major from the College of William & Mary. I don't think when I came back home in 1990 that I had the maturity or the insight to make the suggestions and observations that Sadie was able to make. Jessica, you want to come up and join me in presenting this award to Sadie Henshaw? Sadie, come forward. And I also have another little... let's see here. I had yes. Paid for by private funds. And we have an official pin of the town of Blackstone, and I want you to have this pin, a lapel pin. And if we can just present this award here, we have a photographer here. Anything you'd like to say about Blackstone here, being here tonight? I can put you on the spot, but anything you care to say?
Well, I really have the concern, and I really want to provide a safe environment, a welcoming environment to the people of Blackstone, and to increase patronage in the shop and make the town of Blackstone a better place.
Well, you're well on your way. You're well on your way. Absolutely. We have Jessica here in the middle. And there is also a monetary gift. I believe it's $100 or $150. I can't remember. Please spend that in Blackstone if you don't mind. This is yours. This is your flag. All right. Do one more, Scott, just to be safe. All right, here we go. 1, 3.
On 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you for definitely being mayor. Justice for the Virginia Municipal League. We get a lot of advice and expertise from VML. Anything you care to say, your first visit to Blackstone, or is it?
It is my first visit to Blackstone. It's wonderful to be here. It's a beautiful town. And we just appreciate everything that you all do to support us and to work with us to help cities and towns across Virginia.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, now council, oh no, wrong. We now have 3 advertised public hearings, and we're going to get right into them. Your first is a public hearing on a rezoning request from Nottoway Baptist Church. I think I see several members in the house here tonight. Mr. Van Norbeck, town manager.
Great rezoning request. It's not a
And Sadie, you and your family are welcome to stay. I know she's in 7th grade, it's a school night, but stay as long as you wish or leave whenever you wish.
Yeah, Dad's really interested in.
Good, well, good to have you. Go ahead, Mr. Town Manager. Go ahead.
This is a straight rezoning request. The current zoning of the property, if you remember, it is located on Pine Road at 102 Pine Road. Some time ago, about a year ago, the zoning designation was changed from R2 to M1 manufacturing to accommodate a request from Moonlight Mechanical that was going to open up a fabrication shop. You may or may not remember. The request now, that activity didn't take place and he didn't move forward, but now the property, or 3.5 acres of the property, has been sold to Nottoway Baptist Church in order to operate a church and have all zoning matters clear. They would need to rezone it back to R2, which is a church is a permissible use, where it is not a permissible use in the M1 district. Planning Commission did consider and recommended approval.
All right. We will go right into public hearing. Anyone here tonight to speak? I know there are a lot of folks speaking for. Anyone to speak against the request, has concerns or questions about the request? Anyone who feels they need to speak for the request? I know it's been unanimously endorsed by the Planning Commission. I would like to state for the record, interest of full disclosure, I did not realize until recently, I have a first cousin who is one of the co-trustees on this. I'm not a voting member, but I just want that on the record. I will close the public hearing. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion to approve it.
Council President Thompson has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Mr. Jones is second. Any further discussion? We want to thank the members of Nottoway Baptist coming on back to Blackstone. We welcome you back. And at this time, I'll ask for a roll call vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries 6-0. Public hearing number 2 will go into public hearing. Mr. Van Norbeck to describe the proposed text amendment to the zoning redefining mini warehouse.
This text amendment actually applies to the next item on, or the next public hearing on the agenda. Currently, many warehouses, by definition in the town of Blackstone, do not permit outside storage of any kind. It says a collection of buildings or a building for the stated purpose. The applicant, who is Eric with NEC, has asked that outside storage be permitted, and the property is located at the southwest corner of Northwest Avenue and West Broad Street. If you're familiar, it's a fenced-in area. Before my time, it may have been a fuel, a heat and oil storage place, Jenkins or somebody may have owned it.
Yeah.
Been sitting kind of derelict for many years. The text amendment would permit and would modify the definition of mini warehouses to permit outside storage only if they're properly licensed campers, properly licensed boats, or commercial vehicles under 7,500 GVW, and that's just a general. It would allow maybe a panel truck, but it wouldn't allow a tractor trailer based on the weight.
But only with a conditional use permit, correct? Or this be a use by right?
Conditional use.
This would be a conditional use
Okay.
permit. The application, the next public hearing is for conditional use. This is for actually modifying to allow the outside storage as part of the definition of mini warehouses.
So if someone at another area wishes to do mini warehouses such as that proposed tonight,
In the R3 district.
would they need a conditional use permit, or would it be they would? Okay,
In the R3
excellent.
district, they would have to come back and request a conditional use.
Okay, very well. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone tonight, again, it's been endorsed by the Planning Commission. Anyone tonight with questions or concerns or opposition to the request? Anyone who feels strongly enough they would like to speak for the request? I know Mr. Nash did receive endorsements at the Planning Commission from some nearby property owners, one of whom is here tonight, Mr. Bagley. Seeing and hearing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Members of council, what's your pleasure? This is just to change the zoning ordinance, but it would require a conditional use permit.
No, this specifically amends the text.
Oh, this changes the language, okay.
And there'll be a second public
Okay.
hearing immediately following this to consider the conditional use permit. But the conditional use permit is unnecessary because if this text amendment didn't work, he could only build buildings on the.
What I'm saying, so what we're doing tonight is we are changing the language so that future applicants will not have to get a conditional use permit.
Now, they still would have to get
Okay,
a conditional
okay,
use,
all right.
but if they were doing mini warehouses, they'd be allowed to store stuff outside.
Gotcha. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we amend the text of the ordinance.
Okay. Mr. Hasbrook has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wilkinson has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention. And our third and final advertised public hearing is the actual specific request from NEC Investments for the property mentioned just a moment ago at the southwest corner of West Broad and Nottoway.
Northwest Avenue.
Northwest Avenue, I'm sorry.
The property is currently zoned R3, and the town's zoning ordinance currently declares many storage warehouses to be a conditional use in the R3. The request is a conditional use permit to operate a mini warehouse business as amended, and you guys just did the amendment, on property located at an intersection of Northwest Avenue and West Broad. The property is currently zoned R3, heavy residential, and many warehouses are considered a conditional use. Planning Commission recommended approval with the following 4 conditions. All outside or exterior lighting shall be directed away from residential structures. No on-street parking for traffic generated by the activity. All items stored outside shall be properly licensed at all times. We don't want it to be a place for inoperative vehicles to be stored and that sort of thing. Everybody's got to have a license plate and be tagged. And outside activities shall be screened from adjoining properties in the public right-of-way. The 4th item was added by the Planning Commission. If you look in NEC's application, the first 3 were actually proffers that he offered, and then the 4th one was added after negotiation discussion with the Planning Commission.
Can you say what the fourth is?
Outside activities should be screened from adjacent properties in the public right-of-way.
All right, we'll go into public hearing again. Anyone to speak against this request or have concerns about this request? Anyone who'd like to speak for the request?
I have a question.
Yes.
What is the screening, what is required on the screening for the?
Well, we have 2 options, and I think Eric may be able to just tell you what they're doing. But I think the intention of the Planning Commission was the existing fencing was to remain, and that the slats would be put in, the plastic screening slats. I don't know for a better term, if anybody says, is that a proper term?
Yeah, there'll be the 4 screen slats will be placed in each, I guess, woven piece of wire.
But with the Planning Commission, I don't think their intention was to tear down a fence in order to come back and put something else up. They felt like the fence that was there, if modifications were made, would be satisfactory as a screen.
How high is that fence?
6 foot.
At least 6 feet.
With barbed wire on top.
It is 6 foot, and the standard that we have for a commercial activity that typically abuts a residential is a 6 foot. And we remember this on Main Street. It's an evergreen fence or a 6 foot barrier.
We built a wall and Mexico did not pay for it.
Yep. So it is approximately the standard that we have currently in the order.
Okay, I'm not hearing any or seeing any public comment. Any further questions or concerns of council? It's a good question to define the screening. We know it's a minimum of 6 feet. Any other motion would be in order if you so desire. Don't jump in at once.
I make a motion that we approve.
All right.
I second it.
Motion's been made and duly seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have another 6-0 vote with one abstention. That is all the advertised public hearings. We now will get into the minutes of your last council meeting. I'd entertain a motion to adopt as presented.
Move to approve the minutes from March 18th, 2019 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? Minutes are excellent as always. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We had 3 visitors, one of whom has been before us, and that will get us into the next visitor is Daphne Norton, the 100-mile yard sale. And normally, not to preempt your remarks, but normally we will vote to waive the town's yard sale permit fee after that request. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Councilman and Mrs. Councilman and Mr. Mayor, and condolences to your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry to disappoint y'all, I'm not the general, and Billy knows who I'm talking about, little Miss Jerry Morton. 78-year-old lady from Burkeville started this sale, and this is our 11th year. And Jerry is unable to be with us. Her husband passed away this year in January, and right now I talked to her today, and she has the flu. She lives in a facility in assisted living in Richmond, and she's got about 103 temperature. So y'all pray for her. We are very excited to have this year. We've been trying to promote Blackstone and get a coordinator, and to give you a little history, in our 11th year, this sale runs, and you can hand these out, the flyers to your group.
What is the date, by the way, this year?
It is July the 6th this year. It is always the first Saturday of the month of July, and it runs down the quarters of 360, 460, and 15. It starts at Chula Junction and runs all the way to South Boston. And we will promote this year because we have a Blackstone coordinator. Miss Rebecca Brown has volunteered to coordinate Blackstone, and that's the key to making each area grow and flourish. And some people that aren't yard salers are like, yeah, it's a bunch of junk on the table. It's not. Actually, I went to the Crew Town Council meeting last month, and we actually promote and make about $100,000 in revenue in the town of Crew for this event. I tried to keep count, and I've done this for 11 years. I believe it was the year before last. I had over 4,000 people come to my spot where I was selling at. And so we take ordinary people, businesses. We're trying to promote growth, and that was the whole concept of Jerry starting the sale. And some of you may know of it's up in the New Market area. It's called the Route 11 Yard Crawl, and they attract about 20,000 people that one day. That they go all weekend. So when I come before you tonight, I'm working on behalf of Jerry, and I'm working with Rebecca since this is her first year. We'd like to request, as you have already done so, to waive the yard sale fee just that day.
Okay.
Also, Rebecca has worked with DBI and Zach Whitlow, and they have agreed for Ms. Brown to be the Blackstone coordinator and use the town square. And we just asked that they have recommended blocking off the alleyway that morning to allow the vendors to unload, to be out of the congested parking area, just on that sale day only.
What are the hours, 7 a.m. till?
The sales usually start about 7:30 in the morning is what we advertise it. But the vendors would probably have to be there from 5:30 to 6 in the morning to set up everything.
Okay, how about if we do this? How about I would ask council to make a motion to waive the yard sale permit fee on Saturday, July 6th for all yard sales in the town of Blackstone, and secondly, to have that motion also include use of the town square in conjunction with DBI and the chief of police to meet your request.
That's our next item.
Ms. Thompson has made that motion. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Jones, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Also, we're requesting that the yard salers be able to be allowed to use C Park. Ms. Brown's team would need a town representative to have a walkthrough prior to this event to designate off-street parking, say Blackstone Baptist Church, and coordinate any safety concerns with police. And what we're looking at, and I know you have rules and regulations for the park, there would be no food sold there, no alcohol at no means.
But there would be yard sale items sold there.
There would be yard sale.
I would ask council I would refer that to the Buildings and Properties Committee. I have some very serious safety concerns about street frontage, parking. Square is ideal. I'm not saying I can't support the park, but I think that we need to really, I would rather go slow on that. And I'm going to refer that to Ms. Hasbrook's Buildings and Property
I'll
Committee.
give you the reasoning for it. People don't veer off the route. They won't go over the 10th Street or whatever. If they've got a sale on the corner, they want to stay on that route so they can hit them because they've got a lot of ground to cover. And so the coordinator and I talked about like the fire department and people on this route that had big spaces that were able to, you could get a lot of people at one time.
Sure. The fire department's got a lot better parking though than C Park, and other than
more of a safety concern if you have a fire call.
Yeah, and that's in the fire station. I've learned the hard way. We do not want to. I've got
that
burns
up.
to prove it. Mr. Osborne, briefly.
Arbor's one block, but that's probably too far off for this event.
It's not bad. It's got a 3-acre parking lot right beside the building. Can I refer the C Park aspect of your request to the Buildings and Property? Okay.
Yes.
That,
And then you could coordinate with Ms. Brown. She'll get your contact
very good.
information.
What else do you have tonight? We've just got a busy agenda. I'm not trying to push you, but I'm kind of trying to push
That's
you.
all, other than we know it's one day. That's it, just one day. We won't allow them to set up the day before. And that we ask you work cooperatively like the town of Crewe is with us with policing. I think because this is the first year we pushed this here, your traffic, it will grow, but it won't be as much as Crewe. We have to have 2 officers on
Right.
duty because we have 3,000 or 4,000 people at one time coming through town.
I think it's great, and I would commend Zach and Rebecca Brown, because I thought for years Blackstone's sort of been kind of like not capitalizing on it. And so I think it's great that we're going to at least put our feet in the water, and that's
We'll
great.
promote you as much as we can.
Thank you so much. That's great. And we will have a report hopefully by next month on the Sea Park
And
aspect.
Jerry Morton thanks you.
Well, thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Our next scheduled speaker is Walter Mack Osborne, who I believe provided us some information. I think so. All right. And you're speaking on behalf of the Armory.
Yeah, that and a couple things. too.
Okay.
Okay, just a couple, I need to do some housekeeping real quick if I
Okay.
can. I don't get to come up here very often. I'm 15 hours into a work day, so y'all, if I'm a little slow here, just bear with me. You should probably appreciate me talking slow. Oh, I want to thank everybody letting me speak tonight. I'll be brief since you've got a long agenda. In fact, I've got notes here, so I should do fairly well. I'd like to discuss a few items tonight. I'd like to talk about some misinformation that's out there that's not in your packet, as well as talk about some information that is in your packet. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Town Council, and thank you to previous Town Council for helping me with the Blackstone Cruise In. This is, I think, our 9th year at the Swartz Tavern, and we're going to do it in 2 weeks. But I just want to thank everybody for supporting that, Tavern Authority, and everybody that helps with that. I just want to take a minute to thank everybody.
We
for that.
thank you because you bring a lot of people to Blackstone.
Well, it's
Thanks.
fun, and we
Yeah.
enjoy doing it.
We thank you.
Invite everybody to this weekend's Easter egg hunt. This is our community Easter egg hunt. The Armory Group has done this every year. I think this is our 4th year. We've got the Easter Bunny coming. We've got ice cream and other things, but we're doing this 1 o'clock on Saturday if it doesn't rain, and 1 o'clock on Sunday if it does. But that's our plans right now. Invite everybody to the community for that. But this is put on by the Armory volunteers with our funds and our people. What I did want to talk about tonight, Council, if I could, about 2 things. One is some misinformation concerning what we call HMACI, which is the Harris Memorial Armory Incorporated. The Harris Memorial Armory Incorporated, folks, is a group of citizens that was formed because we know that the community is in dire need of an affordable community center and believe today, as we did, we were incorporated under the laws of the Commonwealth that the Harris Armory building and the land surrounding it represents the best short and long-term solution for this town and value to the taxpayer. However, there are people in this town that believe that our group want to operate, manage, and have aspirations for management of future management of the Armory, and that is furthest from the truth. Nobody at our group wants to operate the Harris Armory, and what I've kind of typed out is we as a group think the building should continue to be managed and owned by the town of Blackstone and its citizens, much like the Camp Pickett Officers Club is owned by the county and all county citizens. This would allow for equal and unbiased use for most citizens and not deny anybody fair use. I just wanted to say a lot of us would like to be part of the future of the Armory. A lot of our group would be, but we don't want to be seen as wanting to be running the Armory or managing the Armory because we feel that the town government, as well as volunteers of the town, do that. But I just want to say that in record because it's been brought up at least one committee meeting and at least one meeting here. And hadn't been here to defend ourselves. This is kind of the way we feel about it. I kind of felt everybody at council felt this way, but I wanted to get it out in public that we occupy the building, we take care of the building, but we don't want to own the building.
Right.
Or operate it, okay, if I could say that. So any questions or concerns I could address with that.
I would just say that I think that makes sense because I don't think any town council in any city anywhere would want to, if a council, let's just say city of Jonesville wanted to renovate an armory, would give the building to, under control of people who were not elected.
Right. I agree with that 100%.
And what you just said echoes what Kathy Wooten said a month earlier.
Right.
Okay,
right.
go ahead. What's your...
Now, number 2 is a little bit something about the packet in your council.
Okay.
I've had a lot of discussions through the last 4 or 5 years of trying to save this armory with the county of Nottoway. I've had some really positive discussions with county leaders, both Blackstone representatives, Crewe representatives, leaders of the county board and the seat, and everybody's been real positive. In fact, I had Frank Ruff in my office last week and talked to him about a lot of the facts I discovered about the Armory, and Frank Ruff was very, very positive about me, and as you know, he's on the Tobacco Commission. But Frank sat in my office last week when I was presenting him with a PAC check for the Wine Association, and we were talking about the different things that we needed for Blackstone, and the Armory was certainly one of those. But by all aspects, I just wanted to mention that I made a Freedom of Information Act request to Nottoway County last week because I really wanted to find out what is their secret. I was pleasantly surprised that 3 hours after I made a request, John Prosides walked in my office and dropped off a packet of information with everything I asked for. John has been just great about things, always been supportive, and always been there when I had questions about the Armory. It dropped off basically kind of a treasure trove of information. By also all aspects, the citizens of Nottoway County, as well as Blackstone, pay taxes to support that building out at Fort Pickett. It's owned by the county taxpayers, including the taxpayers of Blackstone. The daycare operation rental fees only covers part of that building, but the rental revenue alone last year was $35,896, and it grew by 30% over the year before. And it grew by almost that much the year before that. But what sticks out in my mind more than anything, y'all have it in your report tonight. A staggering near about 10,000 people used that facility last year. 10,000 people used an obscure community center located on an Army post that requires you to drive and ride in a vehicle, have an ID pass to go through Checkpoint Charlie, even to get to it. 10,000 people did not come to Blackstone where we have a community place that could be a community center, or at least part of that. Nottoway County saw the need. Mayor, when was it done? I was going to ask you today because you got that memory. When was the Officers Club done?
2003.
And when was the Armory given to us?
1989.
Okay, so we've had long.
88.
Why did they go to Fort Pickett? It's two reasons: price and size. It's not because you can get to it easy. Everybody here can know that. It's price and size. You got it right here, and I will give you tonight the copy of their contract, which is public record. It's very easy. A group up to 500 people could rent this building for $315. This is what the Armory's idea is all about. Any group could rent it and use it, any size to use it, and it's just what they've been doing, and they've been very, very successful. In fact, they've been successful enough that they're sucking or siphoning by accident 10,000 people a year that probably come close to Blackstone, but if you look down that list of people, there's people from Lunenburg and Nottoway and Amelia Proms. In fact, I spoke to a lady last week with the Lunenburg Prom. They can't have their prom when they want to because there's nowhere in Southside Virginia to have it. And they can't get people through the gates at Checkpoint Charlie because girls in gowns don't remember their IDs. It just happens. But the point is, there's a real need, and it was mentioned in this council a few months ago that somebody could underprice us. It's a government operation. They want us to succeed, and we can succeed too with the same type of pricing. You know, it's not where you make money, it's where you bring people to town. And, I mean, the county of Nottoway's got 62 people used the thing last year and came to county in the middle of nowhere because, just like the fire department or our Chamber of Commerce, there's nowhere else to go. And we do everything in Blackstone, and I've kind of gotten off my notes, but I'm trying to make sure I recover everything here. We do everything in Blackstone great. We've got restaurants and convenience stores and grocery stores, everything we do here, but we want to get together as a group or a family or learn or do economic development. We all have to get in cars and drive to an Army base 15 minutes away to do that. And we shouldn't have to do that. We just shouldn't. And I wanted y'all to, just 10,000 just went ding to me. And I know y'all are doing the best you can. Don't expect you to do it tonight or anything like that at all. But the mayor and I talked about this. He said, I reported this. I said, people read the paper, but it's so much to comprehend.
Why don't we do this, Mr. Osmond? We've got this information in our packet. I want to refer this information to the Buildings and Properties Committee. And we're going to have a presentation tonight on the results of the community survey.
Okay.
So this information is awesome. We appreciate you bringing it to us.
Can I say something in closing?
Sure.
I think the social and policy impact of having 10,000 people a year in a block of your business district. I think the benefits of your restaurant and increased business of restaurants with meals taxes. It's been reported that meals taxes in this town are outpacing other taxes, including property and other taxes. That means that meals taxes are keeping your personal property and business taxes lower because you don't have to raise it. Some like to threaten tax hikes when you mention Armory renovation, but if you realize that drawing thousands of people to your downtown that you maybe weren't drawing actually may not be a tax hike, it could be a tax reduction of sorts, or at least putting things off. And I'd just like to mention that I appreciate it, and thank you all very much, that I believe that this town council has the moxie and commitment to get this done. Thank you, Mayor, and I know you got a long agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
And let me give you this packet of information, Mayor. This is the cost operations of the Officers Club for the last 3 years, their utilities, as well as a contract. I got a copy for the finance building and one for the mayor, if I pass it down, okay? Just 3 copies, and you can do what you
We
need to do.
appreciate everything
Thank
your
you,
group
sir.
is doing.
Thank you, folks, I appreciate it.
I will let, just copies for each one of us? Yeah, here we go. Passing down. One thing I will say, just what Mr. Osborne has a good point, the Nottoway High School this year had its spring junior senior prom on March 16th, and they had to change the theme to a starry winter night because they couldn't get the Officers Club in the springtime, so that was kind of unusual. Any members of council have any questions or comments? We've got the information in your packet, and we'll make sure Buildings and Properties has that. And our last speaker who contacted me that I'm aware of, we have Leanne Watrous, who is our Assistant Nottoway County Commonwealth Attorney, soon to be interim, I think on July 1st.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. That's why I'm here tonight. As you said, my name's Leanne Watrous, currently the Assistant Commonwealth Attorney. I'll take over as interim on July 1st, and I'm running to hopefully keep the job come November. A little bit about me as far as my background, since I will be serving as your interim Commonwealth Attorney. I've been a licensed attorney here in Virginia for about 6.5 years. In that time, I've worked as a magistrate, a criminal defense attorney at a public defender's office, and a prosecutor here in Nottoway County. Having done those, I've really seen the full circle of a prosecution of a case, from the time that an officer seeks search warrants and arrest warrants from a magistrate, to thinking up defense theories of a case, and finally coming up with prosecution strategies. Since moving to Blackstone and joining the office in 2016, I've worked extensively with our sheriff's office and state police, as well as our different local police departments, Crewe, Burkeville, and of course Blackstone. I prosecute all types of crimes that come through the office, from your DUIs, your assaults, your larcenies, to our serious crimes like our sexual assaults, breaking and enterings, malicious woundings, and robberies. Also, we'll respond to petitions for appeal to the Virginia Court of Appeals and Virginia Supreme Court. Growing up, I didn't live in Nottoway County, but I moved around a lot. My father was in the Air Force, so I lived 11 places by the time I started high school. I attended high school in Virginia, moved to Virginia right before high school, graduated from Northumberland County in 2006, went to the University of Virginia in 2009 is when I graduated, then Regent University School of Law, graduated in 2012, took and passed the bar exam that year. It was while at Regent that I really fell in love with criminal law, particularly prosecution. I was able to intern in a couple of Commonwealth attorneys' offices during law school and really found the joy of trying a case in court. But I didn't become a prosecutor just because it's fun to stand up in court and try a case. There's a lot of things you can do that with, or types of law. I became a prosecutor to help people, help protect the community, and seek justice. I've been able to help people by working with our victim witness director, particularly for victims of crimes against the person like sexual assaults, assault and battery. And it's one of my goals as Commonwealth's attorney when I take over as interim to really make sure that our victims are aware of what's going on with their cases from the beginning to end, from bond hearings through appeals if necessary. One of our treasures of living in a rural community in Virginia is feeling safe. It's feeling safer in our homes and in our community. And unfortunately, when a violent crime occurs, that can shatter your feeling of safety, whether it occurs to you or your neighbor or someone down the street or someone in the next town over. So understanding that, I vow to prosecute our violent crimes to their fullest extent and work with our law enforcement to really collaborate and try and help protect our community as the best we can. The last thing that I really stand for is justice. Prosecuting is a different type of law from most other types of law, in that most trial attorneys are tasked with winning cases. Prosecutors are also tasked with seeking justice. To me, justice is looking at every case on its own merits and every defendant individually. Seeking justice requires ethical prosecution, hard work, and dedication not only to the job, but to the community at large. And so as Commonwealth's attorney, seeking justice will be at the center of how I prosecute, how I approach all the cases in Nottoway County. I've enjoyed serving as Nottoway County's Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney, and starting July 1st, when I take over as interim, I look forward to bringing my own ideas and my own prosecutorial priorities to the county. So thank you for letting me speak. I know you've got a long agenda. I've got some cards that just have my contact information, and I've got a website where I've got more about my experience when I'm not trying to rush through everything.
That's
so you all
okay.
can get through
Listen,
your
we thank you for
agenda.
coming by. Any members of council have any questions or requests of the of the candidate and the soon-to-be the interim officer holder. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I pass these out as I go back?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this will not be the first time politicking is taking place in these chambers, I can promise you. I might have some experience there. We have no one else who signed up. There are 2 opportunities to speak. Is anyone else tonight who would like to speak from the on delegations? I see Mr. Philip Arms of Diller Street. I'm not a fortune teller, but I got a funny feeling it's something to do with drainage.
Something that you've been dealing with for 20 years.
I'm not that old.
It's it. When you first took over offices,
2006.
I talked to you about that ditch in my backyard.
Hold on, hold on. Mr. Arms has the floor.
Been passed over and passed over and passed over for years. I've talked to Mr. Miller, I've talked to Eric Nash, I've talked to Lonnie, I've talked to Mr. Phillip. And I feel like I should be the next person to be obligated to fix my ditch in my backyard. It's 20 feet wide, and the back of the ditch where Mr. Palmer started, where he had the drain spot coming out, the water is eroded all that around, and it's getting ready to fall off the end of the pipe, the 30-inch concrete pipe.
So there's town pipe back there?
Yes, it's town pipe.
Okay.
It's a town drainage. It's not, I've talked to the water people, and they say that I have the right to shut it down if I want to. It is not a natural water source, so it's my property, and if I want to, I could cut it off. But I don't want to do that. I want to keep the town happy, keep the water running off the main streets, and let it be going. And I feel like I should be the next person on the agenda to have my ditch fixed.
Okay. Well, Mr. Arms, we thank you. This is really the first time, I do remember meeting with you back in '06. This is the first time you're now making a formal request of this council. That's the first time I can remember that being done. I will refer, Mr. Town Manager, if there's anything you want to say, but we would normally refer this to, I would say, Street and Light Committee.
I think that's the appropriate location. It's similar to the other requests that we have. It's a big boy. I mean, it's a big ditch now.
You were there. I seen you the other day when you come and looked at it.
Is it similar as far as the basis by which this council made the decision on 6th Street? Are there similarities?
Worse.
I'm talking about as far as ownership and the town prior history.
I tell you how, when I first moved there, we had a ditch to run through. I had a 30-inch culvert pipe at the back of my property, and I could go from access from one side to the other with my equipment, with my lawnmower and stuff like that. That pipe is 15 feet deep in the ditch, covered up, standing up on the end like this, and I've got trees is that big around in my ditch. Okay. That has not been touched since Mr. Palmer put it in.
Mr. Palmer, the former town manager, did do work there.
He started and he said he wanted to finish it.
Okay. How big of a culvert are we going to need to do this right?
It's a 30-inch pipe.
30-inch pipe?
You showed me.
It's a big hole. Ain't no doubt about it. And I can't dispute what he's saying about it washing. It's all of the above things. The only thing that I can tell you may be a little different than the situation on 6th Street is that I think we can confirm the town put that in. You were here. Yep. And watched the town actually put it in. I think that there was more of an open ditch adjacent to his home, and the town piped it in.
No, I'll tell you how it started. When I bought the property, Gary Moon Pool had a ditch, and they were using, when they haul cement, they come back and would take the truck, fill up with water, and run around in the lot. Concrete would run it all down in the ditch, go into my pipe. Well, they stopped that pipe up, 30-inch pipe. So the town had to come in and put another pipe down below it. You know where my dad's trailer is? Mm-hmm. The old 30-inch pipe goes underneath his trailer, but it's been blocked off because it's filled up with concrete.
The town put the new one in.
The town put the other one in to keep the water flowing so the town wouldn't have water build up on the streets of Main Street.
Okay.
And Mr. Palmer tried his best. You know how money was back then.
It was bad.
It was bad. And he was supposed to try and finish it up. Which, bless his soul, he's gone to heaven.
Right.
And I would like to see it finished.
Well, the good news is we're drowning in money, but we're drowning in ditch requests. But your request is now a matter of public record.
Yeah.
And this request is going to the Street and Light Committee. I believe the chair of that is Mr. Miller. And that's what we're
Mr. Miller to come and look, and he hasn't made it down there yet.
Well, we're going to have a committee visit and a committee study this.
I feel like I should be the next man on the agenda.
You have made that very clear, and we thank you.
Waiting and waiting and waiting.
You've been waiting very patiently, and
Yes, I am.
tonight is your first time here, and we appreciate you coming here.
Yes.
So we're going to refer that and hopefully have a report either at the May meeting or
Are
the
they gonna redo my ditches and stuff, sidewalks and stuff over there eventually? And I'd like to get that done before they have to come over and run over top the curbings and stuff like that.
Okay.
After they get it fixed. And that's the reason I'm requesting to get it done as soon as possible.
Understand. Anything?
There are some other folks here who have ditch requests.
Okay.
That you may have seen before.
I see Mr. Ray Arms, that you are connected to this request as well, correct?
Yeah, the town come in there a couple of years back and put a whole building in one side of it that they tore
Yeah.
down. Just
Okay.
to keep it from erosion. So
Sounds like we got Town of Blackstone fingerprints all over this baby.
Yeah.
I was a kid, I can jump across the ditch. I couldn't take Bigfoot and jump it now.
It's a big hole.
Right. That's true of a lot of ditches in town. And Mr. Constance Wynn has ditches that, you know, as a child, she remembers there weren't ditches. Now that you can lose a car in there. All right, thank you, Mr. Arms. Thank you.
I think you have a couple more drainage.
Well, I saw another hand on the back row yes, ma'am, or yes, I don't have my glasses on, so forgive me. Yes, ma'am. Now, I apologize if I've rushed any of our previous speakers, but I had a feeling we were going to have several, so I'm trying to make sure we give everybody a chance to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good to see you.
My name is Miss Edmonds. I live on Luke Street. I'm also representing my sister on Hardy and Luke, and also Miss Ann Davenport on Luke Street. We have a problem with ditches that I've been talking to the town manager for a long time. Drainage problems. The ditch line is clogged on the back of our house because we're on the corner of Luke and Green.
Okay.
And we've been calling him for years. Nothing has been done. I know years ago they came across Green Street and they put a new piping in on Green Street on the back and they made the drainage. Now if you go up to Luke and Amelia, as soon as you go on Luke and Amelia, you come down Luke Street. If you come down in there with all that rain we have, it is really muddy, standing water. It's getting warm, that means more mosquitoes.
Right.
The back of our house, drainage. It's muddy. If you go behind our house from off of Fall Street, because we have so much problem off of Fall Street, that something is in the ditch line, blocking that line, and it's standing green water there. So as the more that water stand, that means the more we're gonna have problems coming this summer and spring.
You got on both sides. You're talking about problems in front of the homes and behind the homes.
And the behind the homes.
Wow.
Ann's property, her drainage problem, her house and Deborah's house in the back, which is on Hardy Street and Luke Street, it's all muddy down there. You'll sink in the ground as you walk, because it's just the ditches need dig and they need to be cleaned out. It need town maintenance on that, and we've been fighting for years. I never addressed it. I never addressed the town before. I just always go to someone. I either go to Miss Barbara Thompson, or I call Philip. So he told me we had to come. It was best to come. So I decided that's the best to come.
That's right.
Instead of me always complaining to them, burning their ears. So, so as a taxpayer, and I think that need to be taken care of, and also talk to him about the water and sewage. For what I can remember, I'm almost 60, and what I can remember now, when I was young, when the town of Blackstone came and gave us sewage, when we all about connected to sewage in the early 70s. Our pipes have not been changed with sewage because my bathroom and our water that runs to the bathroom, we got all brand new pipes put into our house just about 2-3 years ago. But the water coming through the pipeline in the bathroom stinks. So our water should not be smelling.
You say drinking water? The
water, yes. It's the water.
Shower water, bath water.
Shower water, bath water. On our drinking water, I put filter in the kitchen. So I filter that. Use that, and I have been buying bottled water. But I filter it because it's a lot of money you're paying to buy bottled water. Why should I?
Right.
So those two issues that I think as we as community people, been here all our lives, that these things should be taken care of. Because when I look in the newspaper and I see other people getting things done, and I don't see nothing happening over here, I'm kind of wondering what is the problem. You know?
Understood. Let me ask you one question. I remember, Mr. Novak, when you first joined the town, it may have been a little bit before you joined, there was a major housing community, a CDBG grant project at the Falls and Luke Street area. Did that not do water and sewer lines? It was just housing rehab?
Those were done
Like 92, it's like 92 or 93.
We looked at, and we have a project that we'd like to do on Amelia Street, which we'd like to move some utilities and put some curb and gutter and sidewalks on Amelia between the bridge and the new Nottaway sidewalk. So we looked at the utilities over there, and Andre's cambered the sewer line. We're also concerned, not on Luke Street, but on Fall Street. If you drive down Fall Street, there's several places that look settled. And Andre has cambered them, and he's confident that the pipe does not need to immediately be replaced. I can't speak to the lateral that goes from the main line to the house. Those could be old. Those could be reused. They maybe went to a drain field before or something like that. But those would be considered a private sewer line. So
With curb and gutter, I know it'd be a dramatically large project. Would that solve a lot of their drainage problems at Falls and Luke if we did a revenue sharing
I
curb
don't
and
think
gutter?
it'll solve the portion that are on private property. That you need to take a track hoe or a backhoe in there and grub out
And grub that.
the ditches behind Ramona's house and behind Ms. Davenport's house. That
Right.
would clean it out. These lots are very similar to the West Blackstone lots that are on 2nd, 3rd Street. They're very small, 25-foot lots through the majority of that neighborhood, all the way to Nottaway Avenue. I think this did come to council one time before, and we went out with a committee and looked at it, and I think at that time, I don't know, 3 years ago or thereabouts, the council voted not to go on private property and do that. But we did take a look at it. Now, the stuff that's out by the road, yeah, that's us. We need to clean out some pipe.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I take that one 100%. We'll do a work order, whatever we need to do to get that
Yeah.
part. But the part that we met on, which ran, if you're looking at Ms. Edmonds' house, Ms. Edmonds is sitting to the rear at the corner of Hardy and Luke.
Miss Rose is at the Hart and Luke. I'm at Luke and Green.
Excuse me. The
Okay.
the home that's at the intersection of Hardy and Luke, it was on the left-hand side of that. I don't know if any of you guys, or if you were on the street committee at the time, but that was a private ditch concern. And it was, it's got trees growing in it, it's got bushes, it's got all the above.
Ms. Evans, just to assure you, and you made a very good observation, Miguel, you said when you learn or see that projects are being done in other areas, you understandably get kind of agitated. The projects that's going on right now on 6th Street, for example, is a project that the town did many, many years ago. And sort of, you may have heard me use the expression a minute ago, we got our hands on it. Places that the town has done work like that, or obviously public right away, it's my belief, and I think this council's belief, that the town should, stand by its work. But,
And I got one more thing. The problem here is with the privacy. They say private property.
Yeah.
We did not dig those ditches in the back of that house. Those ditches was there. The town had to put the ditches there in order for it to go through. My parents and my grandparents who had the property, where would they have got the backhoes and what they need to dig these ditches for you to come on private property? They can come behind my property and go to that ditch, because that ditch line runs from one end to the next, but it's all grown up because no one has came in to take care of it.
maintain them. Yeah.
Maintain it. So that's why trees and everything is growing in. The property all beside us that's empty and that's behind us that's empty, yes, it's gonna grow. You have nobody to maintain it.
Right.
So nobody's doing it because they figure, why come over here? I don't know what reason why, but I just feel like it.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, it needs to be taken care of.
I'm gonna also refer your request to the Street and Light Committee, which is Mr. Miller's committee. And we hope we can have, within a month, or certainly the most 2 months, have a recommendation for this council.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and also the water. He said private pipes. Tanner Blackstone came in and put those pipes from the road where you had to connect to the sewer and bring it to the house. Our pipes, we paid for and ran it for, we got the overflow, where you have the overflow cap in our yard, which we paid for, yes. And we paid for the new pipes in our yard, because we had old PC pipes, because that's what they put in years ago. You can't keep those no more. So we got all new, up-to-date pipes. But what do we got to do with the pipes under the ground that we had to connect to? Who gave it to us? You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So that comes from the whole street down, when everybody tied in. Then it becomes, then we as private citizens, then we connected to the sewage.
Could we also have her water quality tested with the water kit? When you talk about odor of water and that sort of thing, I want to make sure that your water is safe.
That's what I want to do too.
And
yes.
can we make sure where that water down there can be tested?
I can tell you publicly, your water is safe. As everybody
Oh, I know. Listen, town-wide, yes, but I just worry about that.
Specific reason that it smells funny or something like that, yeah.
I mean, if they're still smelling from the pipes, I don't get it because we got brand new pipes. If it's our pipes, Then if y'all tell me it's our pipe, then we'll do what we need to do to take care of our pipes.
Right.
But we got all brand-new pipes put in by Mr. Atkins himself.
Yeah.
Mr. Atkins, whatever his name is.
That's right. That's
Put
right.
in. And I mean, and it wasn't smelling until we got to smell it now. Now, when we get rain, it's worse. So I'm not accusing the town or not, but if y'all check it and tell me it's fine, then fine. I ain't got I don't have no problem. But I would just like this so we can have a peace of mind over in our community. And other problems that I want to address, y'all ain't got time. I saw in the newspaper that y'all made some comments on the problem on Fall Street. I'm with that 100%. So what was in the newspaper. So if all that get taken care of, Ms. Edmonds would be pleased, Ms. Rose, and Ms. Davenport.
Well,
So I thank y'all so very
we
much.
thank you as well.
For listening to me today.
And we're going to refer your request to the committee. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
You're a good spokesperson for your neighborhood. Yes, would you like to speak as well, ma'am?
I just want to show y'all the pictures. She didn't have pictures, but I took pictures.
Okay. If you'd like to pass them forward, that'd be fine. This is. I told the lady from VML, you never know what's going to come up with the agenda. And tonight it is ditches, and that's fine.
My name is Ann Davenport. And this is when water, when it rains, I pass it down. They make a curve because when you're coming out that pipe across Harding Street.
That looks like my ditch.
Nothing but flat surface.
It's been a wet year, no doubt.
It's in the back of my yard.
Well, the last 2 years have been the wettest probably, and I know probably 50 years in Blackstone, but still, there's no reason to think that it's going to get dry anytime soon either. So we need to have our ditches in good shape. Do you want these, can we keep these for the public record, or do you want these photos back? I would ask these be, every little bit helps, man, I can tell you. I would ask that these be kept for the committee when they're making the deliberations. Well, after you get through looking at them, we can hand it to Madam Clerk.
I got a question.
Mr. Miller.
Jennifer, could we set up a meeting, a tour as quickly as possible for our committee?
Yes.
So we can go out and check out these.
We have a very, very meaty agenda. Anyone else tonight on the first part of visitors? We have a second part right before adjournment, so you're welcome to stay, and at that point you can ask questions. If you hear something you didn't like. I see none, I hear none, we'll move right on to our fire chief's report. Chief Tomer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Big things going on this week for us. We have to hopefully have the truck pull this Saturday. Gates open at 12 and the pull starts at noon, or excuse me, it starts at 6. And then we're doing our Easter egg drop on Sunday at 2 o'clock. We also are, May is Stop the Bleed Month. It's a big push for stopping the bleed, such as traumatic incidents of putting on tourniquets, gunshot wounds, any type of layperson can stop the bleed. So our department's holding a community CPR and Stop the Bleed class on May 10th. Emergency Services Association met with the majority of the Board of Supervisors this month to kind of express our financial concerns and woes about volunteerism. Blackstone's very fortunate, I believe, with the number of volunteers we have at 50. Burkeville said they had 13 members, and Crew Fire Department in the low 30s, upper 20s. We're a very fortunate department in our community to have numbers like we do in the turnout and equipment. The goal is to make that sustainable, and I believe the path that we're on is not going to maintain us down the road, and we're trying to push the county to look at alternate means of funding and services to the emergency services. The last time we did this, it was really many years ago, and emergency services was kind of crumbling. Burkeville was at the point of almost shutting their doors. So I'm hoping that with a proactive approach this go around that we could move forward a little bit earlier before a crisis does develop. So.
Hey, Chief, one quick question. Thanks to you, in large part to you last year, the county did away with the stickers, and now they've tied their their decal fee to registration. We should be seeing a surge in the collections that goes to fire and rescue, shouldn't we?
According to what I've been told already, we've succeeded the amount that they got last year. And this year, they're only charging $18 because it had to be prorated.
Right.
So it should be a significant increase
When it goes back to 25.
when it goes back up to 25. So even just at $18, we've made more than we did in our previous years.
There's no escaping it. If you've got a vehicle registration out of it, you've got to pay it, or you don't get your license renewed for your vehicle. Isn't that correct?
Oh, well, I heard
Hopefully.
some other stuff from
All right.
DMV.
What else, Chief?
Our junior fire department is going to be attending a competition. It's a pretty cool thing for junior fire departments throughout the country. Go to North Carolina, and just like the senior fire department competition in Virginia, this gets juniors from all over the United States, brings them in, and they compete. This is going to be our second or third year, I believe, our junior department has participated in this. So it's a big team building thing. It's really awesome that we could represent the region
That's great.
with the junior fire department.
When is that?
It is the 26th.
Of May or April?
Correct.
No.
April.
Okay.
April 26th.
Very good. Very good.
And I guess lastly, our years of service this year, we have a total combined of 111 years of service to the town with volunteers. With that being said, I also brought up in emergency services was the aging fleet of members. And our department has 15 now, members that have served over 20 years. Crew was making a mention that they were recently at a call and all 6 of their members were over 60 years of age. So, and that's kind of where we're pushing the volunteerism aspect of getting younger people in. We still have Philip who runs more calls than any other member.
MVP.
So really need to figure out something to expand emergency services in the county.
Absolutely. Well, Chief, we thank you. Anything else tonight? I will tell you, I can't make the Stop the Bleeding class. That's the day my daughter's getting married, but that's the day I'm going to stop the bleeding. I hope. I hope. All right, payment of bills. Your first batch in your packet totals $865,288.79. I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion been made and duly seconded. Any questions?
Under Blackstone Postmaster, we had a citizen raise a question about the cost difference for utility bills now. It's $971 this month. What has it been in the past, roughly?
Normally around $670, instead of going to
But you gotta remember, we're also saving in our labor by the employees as well. So that's not figured in there.
$3,600 a year extra as postage, but like you say, and plus you can get more information on the bill.
And I think they had some more, we had some inserts in this one, didn't you? Yeah, we had inserts, about the budget billing in this one, so they were a little
Heavier.
Gotcha.
Yep, that does matter. All right, any other questions? I'd ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Nash, because the total's over 10,000.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0. And your second batch of those to be approved are $183,755.72. They're broken down by department. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and duly seconded. Any departmental questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Nash.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Under your committee reports, you have just nothing under account and finance that met with department heads. Employment and police had some personnel issues, but there was no action. You have a health and ordinance committee meeting. Mr. Bernard Beck, that's Ms. Jones's committee. With I think I don't know if there are any no real tangible recommendations, but some discussions. Anything?
Just to let you know, Tessie and I actually met this morning, and the screening commercial areas and the outdoor light ordinance should be taking a look at, as well as communicating with the chief on updating the code for the town's littering ordinance. I think there was some question a few weeks ago about what we can and can't do, and I think the chief is recommending some changes, and Tessie's going to bring to us. What I would ask out of that is, if we get something back before the next council meeting or within the next few weeks, would it be agreeable? And I don't think it's substantive changes, more code sections or that sort of thing. Is that correct? I'd like the authorization to go ahead and advertise it if we receive it in time for the next council meeting to hold a public hearing.
Common consent? I think that'd be fine. I think the maximum you can punish somebody for littering in Virginia, I think, is $2,500. I think Emporia is doing, got those signs up. But let's just make sure we do it. Hopefully one day we'll catch somebody in the act.
And I have spoken with the folks at Heritage Hall about the lighting, and they were going to do everything in their power to either put some blinds on it or some screen on that.
It's just been one person's complaint, but it's someone on South Main Street that's been very adamant about it, so that's why I brought it to your attention.
And the director at the nursing home has been more than agreeable.
Yeah, they're great. Anything else under health and ordinance?
Nothing.
All right, then we move right along to the Fire and Water Committee with the Powell Street situation.
Fort Pickett sewer rates, we still are waiting a response from Fort Pickett. We've provided to them, as you know, different rate opportunities. One of the key issues with the post, and correct me if I'm wrong, and with the town as well, is the tap fees. We've been struggling with the tap fees consistently. The mayor made a request for 400,000 gallons of capacity reserve to be turned over to the town. And the good news is their planning documents tell them that the 400,000 could be made available. That's the good news. So that's a start. That's not an immediate shutdown.
Right.
In response, the tap fees obviously are on the table. But in addition, they also want to consider looking at the way they're charged or the way they're billed. Right now, they're billed on a bulk rate of $3.87 per 1,000 gallons, which is about roughly half of an in-town resident. But they got a lot of flow, in the millions of gallons for obvious reasons. What they would like to do is take a look at, can they become the equivalent of a metered customer? Because oftentimes they'll get a 2 million gallon a month usage on water, and a 6 million or a 7 million gallon, or it could be even more disparate.
Which is on us because it's inflow and infiltration on the system.
Now they're paying for the inflow and infiltration now.
Which isn't fair to them.
Right.
It's not fair to Pickett.
But it was the agreement that was originally agreed to by both parties.
Right.
And so it's what we got, and it's what we're working with, but they're proposing potentially to change the way that they're billed. If you look at the charts that Jennifer Hardy has put together for us, if they are charged the equivalent of a town customer, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, it would be about a net $50,000 increase in their
what they're paying us now.
What they pay us in the course of a year, but we take on all the I&I responsibility. Okay, we have to treat it, we have to deal with it. Okay, if they were to go and become an out-of-town customer, which they've proposed that could be a potential, it would be a net of about 202,000. Thereabouts.
Sold.
Well, but here's the kicker.
How much do we receive off their sewage rates though?
How much do we receive?
Yeah, because obviously they're paying for the sewage as well with the I&I.
I think we just looked at the sewer, not the water. Okay. This is really on the sewer side of things, okay? So one of the things that I did tell them is, if you guys remember, I lectured to council years ago about City of Fairfax and extending utilities out of town and using the 50% surcharges that we add to out-of-town customers for purposes other than water and sewer. And I think the state, certainly judiciary, has said that's not a good thing. If that 50% is being used for general fund activities, then it's taxation without representation. So the money has to be reinvested into the system. And my proposal would be, and what I've proposed to them is, if not that 50%, which is included in that 200,000 or more, could be the seed for us to start replacing some really wretched stuff that's out there at Pickett. Just old. It's not that bad, but it's pressure problems at the airport, a lot of I&I at the airport and that sort of thing. And I would propose taking the majority of that money and start that $16 million replacement project that we've discussed that's out there at Fort Pickett looming that we haven't even touched since I've been here, other than Fast C coming into town and abandoning a portion of it.
Well, is the crux of the situation this? you know, 2 years ago, when we were looking at hotels, you know, capacity was a real issue. And of course, now we've got the Tobacco Commission grant upgrading our plant. Is it, in your opinion, is getting this extra 400,000 gallon capacity worth it to the town of Blackstone, the people of Blackstone, to restructure the rates at Pickett? Or should we just live and abide by the agreement that's in writing now? How bad do we need the capacity?
We don't need it immediately. That 200,000 gallons or 10% capacity that we
Right.
anticipate adding is going to be sufficient for Nottoway Commons and certainly Fast C. But long-term,
Future growth.
I think it makes more sense to have that in hand. We're not going to stop at the town boundaries one day. We'll be extending in one direction of the court, whatever
Right,
it is.
right.
I would say if you can wrap the deal now, and if they were agreeable to that out-of-town rate, make those figures, those increases. We don't need a windfall of cash, but that does get us started on replacing the lines.
Pickett, correct.
And use that money specifically. If it's 190,000, we spend 190. If it's 205, we spend 205. Whatever that is, that we invest it back onto the public.
Okay. What do you need from us tonight?
Nothing on that topic. We're awaiting a response from them.
We haven't heard anything back.
I think Sandra Reagan has contacted us with some questions, but beyond that, no, we don't have anything for them.
But we're moving forward. It sounds like Pickett is, you know, we've got a good negotiation
Post commander was
underway.
very agreeable. The adjutant general was here. We had a
Right.
committee meeting, and he was very agreeable. So if we can find those right terms and conditions, and again, we can put that money back in the system and really start actually doing some replacement work.
Sounds good. Members of council, y'all okay with where it's going right now? All right. What else under fire and water? Powell Street.
Powell Street. Powell Street is an undeveloped platted street in the southeastern part of town. If you're familiar, there is a developed portion of Powell Street that's in the state system, in the town system, which runs between Rigglesworth Stadium and the primary school. That portion of Powell Street that is south of Birch, that runs to West Entrance Road, was platted much longer, years before I ever thought it was. It was platted in the early 1900s, 1906? 1904, excuse me. So it was platted very early on. We asked Tessie for an opinion on the use of Powell Street for water and sewer, okay? The project initially is for Frankie Williamson that we had approved, or the council had approved some time ago, for up to 71 apartments to be located on that piece of property, or his proposal was 71 apartments. Initially, Frankie had a drawing prepared that showed a gravity sewer line going from his property across two adjacent private property owners. One is Annie Williams, the second of which is Verily Trent. And the opposite happened. I think Miss Williams was somewhat agreeable, but Miss Trent said, I'm not interested in having that sewer line cross my property. They already have sewer access at East Street, so it wasn't going to benefit them.
Help them, right, right.
So that idea got dropped. Frankie said, where do we go from here? And I said, well, check Powell Street. See what happens. Well, that was over a year ago. I went back and looked at the dates and times of our discussions. And when I first presented it to the committee with the last council, well, sadly, some surveyors got on Powell Street and got the neighbors excited, okay? Neighbors want to know what's going on. And there is a drawing, and a prepared drawing, that the committee has seen, I can share with the full council, that would show a sewer line going down Powell Street down to West Entrance Road, and it will work by gravity. There are alternatives like pump stations, which I don't recommend to anybody. The town doesn't want to take them,
No.
Frankie doesn't want to build them, and Miss Williams doesn't want to live next to one. And I think the committee has come down to some final resolutions with the family. Miss Williams and her sister, Miss Jones, that lives next door. The first of which, and I think we have some things written out, and I think there's a little bit of clarification, is that I don't think you guys can commit to the abandonment of Powell Street at this point, because you still have to hold a public hearing.
Gotta have a hearing.
I think it'd be premature to say definitively we would do that, but it certainly would be in staff's recommendation to abandon it. We don't need it. The value to them is Miss Jones's property improvements, house, we believe is across the property line and built on a portion of Powell Street, okay? So this would clarify the issue for that matter, okay? And would put to bed any ingress or egress other than a 20-foot easement that would be granted to the town, okay, from Annie Williams, okay, because she owns both sides of Powell Street for the most part, except where her sister's house is, and she would grant us, the town, a 20-foot sewer easement, so we could work on the sewer 10 years, 5 years from
Mighty
now,
nice.
20 years from now. So they would get 30 feet, she would grant us back 20 feet, so that we could have that sewer line in there. Provide 2 new sewer line connections. Neither of the houses are connected to the town sewer currently, and I don't think there's any problem with putting the 2.
We waive the connection fees?
And waiving the connection
Okay.
fees. And they've requested that the sewer line be adjusted 5 feet to the west. I don't think it's still within the approximate location of the design sewer. Doesn't add manholes, it doesn't create much of a problem. It stays out of the trees for the most part. There may be one big oak tree that may be unhappy if we dig next to it. So adjusting the line at 5 feet to the west. If you read the minutes, this is not in the recommendation, but it's not because the committee didn't want to do it. But I think, if I'm correct, the committee wanted to talk to the whole council before they made the recommendation. And if you look at the bottom of the next page under Powell Street, she's requesting a compensation from the town of $4,000, which is the approximate value of, if she has to connect onto the town sewer at some point, it would reimburse her for the drain field that she just put in.
How do you feel about that? Is it I mean,
I think Christine hit it on the head the best when we talked about it. And I told her democracy was messy and negotiation was messy, and these may be the things that we have to live with to get something done. And
it's a very unusual situation. It's just, it's a
it's a weirdo. Yeah, it's I haven't seen one exactly like this before, and I think some of the family members have some concerns about the legality of using Powell Street. I think Tessie has looked at it and felt like the act of platting and recording the subdivision plat showing Powell Street was enough at the time, but I think in order to put it behind us, move on with as few bruised feelings, I think the $4,000 could.
They become sewer customers too for the town of Blackstone. There's residents that become sewer customers.
Potentially. They're not mandated to connect on, but when they want to connect on, they can.
I'm all for waiving the sewer connection fee, but I think it's absurd that the town of Blackstone would offer to pay $4,000 to use its own right of way.
That is why I think the committee wanted to talk to everybody and see what y'all thought. It's unusual, agreed.
How many other right of ways?
That's a way to resolve it.
How many other right of ways are in the town of Blackstone? I mean, I've got several that run through my property. I'd like the town for me to pay me $4,000 to. I mean, again, we're gonna open a can of worms.
It's a fair point. If meanwhile there's a project that they support, then they don't want to stop the project. How we get sewer to these apartments that are going to be built?
Well, I think, quite frankly, I believe the town would be in its right to have that sewer line installed. We're not on their property, but I can tell you if a blade of grass off their property or off our property gets damaged or something like that, we got a problem.
You're trying to do this to avoid litigation.